From profile cards to the new King of the Dead sculpt, it's time to check out all the new releases for Middle-earth. Welcome to Wargaming. My name's Lachlan Linton Keane, and in this edition of News from the Mark, we're going to be checking out some new product for the Middle-earth strategy battle game range, as well as some old school stuff. We've got a couple of repackaged items to have a look at as well that used to be out of production, which we can now get our hands on. We're going to be having a look at the new plastic sculpt, the King of the Dead and his heralds in a lovely new box set, sort of in the vein of these plastic box sets we've been seeing, the Three Hunters, Theoden, Dernhelm and Merry, and this is the next one off the rank in some beautiful Middle-earth packaging, and it looks like an absolutely fantastic set of sculpts. We're going to be diving into some unexplored territory. We've got some profile cards. Now, we have never had any sort of kind of supporting card elements of this sort of style. We've had accessory packs for the general packs in Middle-earth, but never profile cards and unit cards and that sort of thing. So a whole brand new world for Middle-earth to dive into. And then we're looking at 3 new repackaging box sets. We've got some Citadel Guard, some Fiefdom's Heroes, and then a couple of old classics, Kyrian and Beragont, who have been long out of production and are now ready for us all to dive into at the web store. Now, all of these items are currently available for pre-order. They will be available this coming Saturday in just a couple of days when this video drops. So you've got a little bit of time to check them out here on Zorbazor before they're available publicly, and you can get your orders in if you're juiced by what you see. There is also one other item that is being released alongside this, which is the King of the Dead special dice. We've seen the dice kits kind of come out over the last sort of 12 to 6 months over the kind of new release period. We've had the Rangers dice, Gandalf dice, Rohan dice, which sort of came out with the new edition, and now we've got our next range of dice, which is the King of the Dead themed dice. Now, I'm pretty sure these dice glow in the dark too, which is super cool, but I haven't got any of those to hand, but I have got some on order, so you'll see them in battle reports to come. Now, most of these products that are being released, the King of the Dead, the repackaged box sets, they're all going to be available long term, but the profile cards and the dice are going to be limited release windows, just like we've seen with all of the previous dice. Once they sell out, they are gone. And this has been a bit of a problem in the past. Games Workshop haven't been producing stuff in enough quantity to kind of meet demand, and their orders aren't big enough. The stuff sells out really quickly, and then we see a lot of inflated prices in the secondhand market, like eBay, resellers buying them in bulk and moving them on. So we're going to face that problem yet again, and we're already starting to see it. Now, the reason this happens is because both these profile cards, the General's accessory pack in Days Gone, and all of these dice are made by third-party companies. They're not made in-house by Games Workshop, which means they put an order out to those companies, and then once that order is filled, that's all that's ever made, and in the past, they've never restocked those orders. Now, the previous lines, like the Games Workshop dice, the Gandalf dice, the One Ring dice, the Mordor dice, all of those sold out fairly rapidly, but this week we have seen an unprecedented scale of purchasing. We don't know if Games Workshop just ordered less, or perhaps the community is just so phenomenal that we're buying stuff like crazy, but in the UK and the US, both the profile cards and the new dice are already sold out on pre-order. In fact, they're sold out at such rapid pace that a lot of independent stockists who hadn't placed their orders on time were sent an email from Games Workshop saying that those items were no longer available to order for independent stockists, which means that the only way to buy them was through Games Workshop if you were in that lucky period. Now, lucky here in Australia, nothing has sold out yet, because of course to buy any of it you'd have to take out a second mortgage. So luckily, that's a bit of the flip side of our kind of regional based extortionist pricing. So luckily I was able to sell a kidney and get a few dice. So I've got a couple of kits coming, one for me and one for a mate, which is exciting, but in a lot of places throughout the world they're already selling out, and we don't know if these products are going to come back. So yeah, if it hasn't sold out in your area already, it's definitely worth considering buying if it's something that you're wanting. There was a long period a few years back where we would only get notice of huge releases with a couple of weeks advance warning, which, you know, is all about feeding into that culture of impulse purchasing. In the last kind of couple of years, it has definitely been getting better. Warhammer community have been doing some amazing work. You know, we find out about releases with quite a lot of notice. We've known, you know, since about these King of the Deads and these profile cards for I think at least a couple of months now. We kind of got the info drop on those at Articon, along with the War in Rohan kind of info. So there's definitely a lot more kind of positive marketing behavior from Games Workshop lately, but still these small run orders are definitely a bit of a bummer for people in the community who, you know, aren't as switched on and don't pick things up immediately. Maybe that's a manufacturing ploy. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It happens range wide as well. Like there's stuff in 40k and Sigmar that will sell out, like limited run dice and things, but it definitely happens more in Middle-earth. Perhaps it's just that we still don't have the support of those kind of risk-taking decision makers up in the higher echelons of Games Workshop's corporate structure, but we, you know, I feel like we've earned it now. Every time they bring something out, ever since the Hobbit stuff, anytime that anything has been limited release, it has sold out very quickly. Sales are going really well. We're getting lots of new kind of content with the supplements. We just had Scouring of the Shire, and all of this stuff is selling really well. So I would love to think that Games Workshop would start to, you know, support our limited run stuff a bit more, because we love dice. These profile cards are awesome, as you'll see when we dive into them. They're really cool, and it's a shame that they're not going to be really widespread in the community, because either such a small print run was done, or maybe we all just ordered them en masse. But it seems like there's a lot of unhappy people in the community who feel like they've missed out, at least from the little window we have into the world through the GBHL and other Facebook communities. So, bit of a shame that they're limited run, especially if they're sold out in your region already. At least you can have a look at them here on Zorpazorp. But we don't just have the limited run cards, we've also got some amazing products that are new and staying around forever, like the King of the Dead sculpt, and also a couple of repackages. So, we're going to go through these one at a time. Let's start off with our probably most anticipated, which is the new amazing sculpt for the King of the Dead. Now, this is one box set. It's the King of the Dead coming with 2 heralds. Obviously, you know, there's been a King of the Dead sculpt. I think that sculpt was done in like, I want to say 03, 04, 05, that kind of region. I think it might have been 2003, probably a little later actually, 04. But it's you know, it's very dated. And when we saw this getting announced, it was huge. Army of the Dead is really popular at the moment. We see them and their Legendary Legion with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. We see that all the time. So it's really cool to have some nice kind of models supporting that. I mean, you can see where they were going, right? This paired along with the 3 Hunters box and some Army of the Dead, it's an army straight off the go. So it's a fantastic little product line. And of course, we now have models for the Heralds, which are the new hero profile that came out with Gondor at War. Finally got their profiles. We were worried when the banner got re-released. I think, might have been a permanent re-release or maybe made to order. When that got announced, I was worried we weren't getting Herald models, but we have Herald models. So let's dive in and have a look. Obviously, we've got some gorgeous packaging, as is kind of current with all the beautiful new products we're getting out of the Middle-earth line, which is lovely to see. No more white boxes. We've got some nice instruction guides as well, because there is some assembly required here. Now, just like the 3 Hunters, this sort of box size is coming on 2 sprues. We've got a sprue for, it looks like, 1 herald and banners, and then we've got the king and the other herald split across the 2 sprues. Now, all of these models are absolutely stunning. I really love the detail on the banners. No one likes those kind of flat banners. Who has time for freehand, right? So we've got some gorgeous detail on the banners that the heralds have there, but I think the thing that really makes me lose my mind is all of the kind of holes, right? It's just a rib cage of the King of the Dead. We've got lots of gaps and lots of kind of gappy detail. I don't know how else to describe that. It's like a rib cage, right? You can see through a big portion of the King of the Dead, which is of course so awesome because he's a friggin' ghost. And when you kind of pair that up nicely with his back, there's lots of holes in his cape and thing, and he's just going to look absolutely stunning. A really dynamic pose as well. It looks like based off the shoulder joint, there might be a little bit of posability on where you put his arm, or at least with a little bit of green stuff, you can kind of change that angle and get a little bit of dynamic element into it. But just in general, it's an absolutely stunning sculpt, packed full of detail, and these heralds just look amazing as well. They've definitely got that kind of same vibe to them, that they've got lots of beautiful gaps in all of their armor and their cloth to represent their holy, ghosty nature. And if we have a look at that picture there, you can see they're going to come up an absolute treat when they're assembled. So these guys are absolutely awesome. Definitely pumped with these. So while we're talking about new and exciting stuff, let's dive into the profile cards. Now, we've got 4 packs here that we're going to be having a look at. We've got Defenders of the Pelennor, the Mordor set, the Fallen Realms set, and the Magical Powers set, which I'm particularly excited for. So let's have a look at them one by one. With the Defenders of the Pelennor kit, we're looking at 75 cards. There are 58 stat cards for all the profiles and army bonuses, which is huge, for the following army lists. We've got Minas Tirith, the Fiefdoms, Rohan, and the Dead of Dunharrow. So let's have a look at these. As you can see, obviously, by the size of the packaging, we're looking at small scale cards here. These are the same card sizes like the Necromunda and some of the other 40k cards, I think. So some sort of uniformity. They're quite big. At first I was annoyed because they're not going to fit traditional sleeve sizes, which means we probably have to buy Games Workshop sleeves when they come out. Classic. But there might be third-party sleeves that fit these, but I can sort of see why for a lot. They've decided to go for a uniform size for orgs. It would be weird if they were changing size. And when you have a look at the profiles, you can see that it's probably pretty fair that they needed to be this big, because there's a lot of info that needs to be on here. So straight off the bat, we can have a look at these cards, and you can see it's as described on the box. We've got some gorgeous cover art, and then all the beautiful little stat line, the special rules just listed by bullet point. They don't outline the special rules because these are for quick reference, and some option info as well. Now these are just troops. If we dive through and we jump into some heroes, let's have a look here. We've got the captain. We've got some extra stuff here down the bottom, of course. Might, will, fate, and wounds. Now these are beautiful little check boxes, which, you know, once with a sleeve, you could just use either a dry eraser or a whiteboard marker, and you'll be able to, you know, mark those on and off, which I think is going to be really, really cool. So obviously we've got all the units for Rohan here. We'll just flip through. Oh god, this is going to be super cool. I'm absolutely stoked I've got the Rohan cards. Definitely going to be road testing these out. And here we can see we've got the army bonus, which is super cool. Then we've got the Dunharrow stuff, all of the Fiefdoms models and cards as well, and then we've got all the Minas Tirith stuff as well. Now, we've also got here at the very end some Legendary Legion information, because obviously the Legendary Legion lists are very kind of themed. We've got stuff that really relates to the Pelennor. Let's have a look at these. We've got the Men in the West one, the Riders of Theoden. That's going to see a lot of play. That card will be battered pretty quickly, I think. The Return of the King, and the Grey Company, and the Rangers of Athelion. So, no extra Legendary Legion cards. I thought maybe we might get some sneak peeks at some Rohan at War stuff, but obviously there might have to be like a Rohan at War pack that releases. So I guess maybe we'll see more card supplement kind of packs coming out each time new stuff comes out. And then here, it looks like we've got... I don't know, these might be like generic blank cards. Yeah, it looks like it. We've got name, keyword, magical powers, model ranking. Yeah, so these are for either filling out other hero models that aren't covered by the packs, or perhaps maybe even could be used for battle companies, who knows. They're really cool to see some nice blank cards, a nice little addition there at the end of the pack. So that is our Defenders of the Pelennor pack. So then up next we've got our Mordor pack. Now there's 55 cards in here, including 46 stat cards, so obviously that remaining 9 will probably just be some more blanks, and these have got all the models for Barad-dûr and Mordor. So we'll just have a quick flick through, and you guys can see some evil units here. Oh, we've even got a Steed card, Felbeast, that's pretty cool. We've got, you know, Mordor Uruk-hai, Morannon Orcs, all the beautiful juicy Mordor options, and they're kind of split up, all the rates, split up by army list. Then we've got the Mordor army bonus, and then we've got all the units for Barad-dûr here as well. We've got Ringwraiths, the Witch King, Sauron himself, and then of course the Barad-dûr list, and then we've got a few more blanks. Now it doesn't look like there's any Legendary Legion cards in here, which I find interesting, because obviously we've got Gothmog's Legion, which I would have thought would have been perfect for being in here. Let's just have a quick shimmy and make sure I haven't missed them. Mordor army bonus, no. Barad-dûr. Yeah, okay, so no Legendary Legions in the Mordor kit, which is interesting. Perhaps they're going to be somewhere else. Let's keep on keeping on. Up next, we've got the Fallen Realms kit. This is 75 cards or 60 stat cards. We've got Angmar, the Easterlings, the Variargs of Khand, the Serpent Horde, Far-Harad, and the Corsairs of Umbar. Now, one thing to note is, so far, we've only seen kind of Lord of the Rings branding on the front of these packs, and we've got Middle-earth here on the magical cards. So maybe as we have a look at other ones, we'll see different branding. Like, obviously, we're going to get the Hobbit-themed releases and that sort of stuff based on what army book they're drawing on. Here we've got some duplicates. We've got the Felbeast, which is nice. We see that again because it's in both armies. And then we've got all of these juicy units. Here are the Corsairs. So this is all of our Corsair army bonus stuff. We've got Far Harrod here, and that faction's army bonus. All the Serpent Horde units, all Khand. And then we've got Kamul, the Easterling bonus, and then a whole bunch of Angmar. And then here at the end, we do have a Legendary Legion, the Grand Army of the South. So there is a Legendary Legion in this pack. I find it really odd that Gothmog's Legion wasn't listed in the Mordor pack. I think that's kind of odd, really odd choice. But anyway, seems like we've got the Grand Army of the South Legendary Legion here as well. And then that is all of our army kind of profile cards. That leaves our magical powers. So this is 36 cards. Inside we've got all of the magical powers being referenced in the game. So it's just magical powers, which makes sense. That's what it says on the box. A slightly thinner box, as you'll see. I'm really stoked for this one because I really hate remembering my magic powers and I really struggle at it. And I love that I'm going to be able to have access to them kind of quite quickly without flicking through the book. You can sort of go, okay, I'm playing someone who's got Nature's Wrath, down goes Nature's Wrath on the table. And I can quickly reference it and sort of assign it with all my profile cards, and it doesn't kind of overtly look like I'm looking up the magical powers as well, which is always good. And of course, if you're running casters, you can have stuff that only applies to your caster, and you don't have to kind of sift through like you've got your loadout of spells, right? As opposed to worrying about all the spells you don't have and flicking through the book. So some of these cards, it looks like there's a fair amount of negative space, but that's because, we've got things like Sorceress Blast and Shroud of Shadows. There's a couple that really need to take up the full card space, so, it makes sense that they would all be the same size. But yeah, these look really nice, and I honestly see these being extremely useful. I love the idea of kind of almost building like a bit of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck style. It's time to with all your different cards, so you've got this big quick reference area. I think in general these are going to be pretty useful. They're really nice quality. We didn't actually have much of a look at the back. You can see on the magical power cards they've got a beautiful little facing here as well, which is kind of cool that they're all the same, because you could have them face down if you didn't want your opponent to know what cards you were researching at the time to see what you're planning on doing versus what they are doing. With our Fallen Realms one, and I think it's the same for all of these, they just say Middle-earth Strategy Battle Game on the back, which is just a nice bit of graphic, which certainly looks nice. And they do come in these nice boxes so they can stay protected. I think, at first I was sort of worried that these wouldn't be that good of value, but I think the use I'll get out of them is probably worth their international price point. I think that they're really nicely printed and they're quite nice quality, and it just depends, right? If you're going to use them, then obviously you'll get value of them, but if it's not like something that you like to do, or if you feel like you just like looking in your army book, then obviously they're not going to be that useful to you. But I quite like the idea of assembling that sort of loadout or deck space of all of my stuff for quick reference, particularly the tracking of heroes. Unfortunately, obviously, at the moment I'm playing the Theoden's Riders Legendary Legion, so my might is often going up and down a lot, and I quite like to use pen and paper for that because I can track the changes in my stats a lot better and make sure, cross out there, amendment there, as opposed to just rubbing stuff out and putting it quite down. It can be tricky for opponents to be like, hey, didn't you already get that might, or haven't you spent that might already? So maybe not so much for tracking might, Will and Fate for me, but for most armies that's not, for most armies who don't have the problem of getting all their might back all the time, they will certainly be super useful. But yeah, definitely happy with these. They look absolutely gorgeous, and to be honest, they're kind of a lot better than I thought they were going to be. I sort of thought that they probably wouldn't be all that flash, but these are pretty sick, and I'm pretty convinced at how awesome they are. So the final thing we've got to look at is some repackaging of older units, which are now kind of permanently back on the web store. Now the three kits that we've got here are the Lords of the Fiefdoms, which comes with, and I'm going to get these names right, Angbar, Forlong, and Dunhir. I always get them round the wrong way. At least I got the names correct this time. So you get the 3 metal blisters for each of those guys on foot, and that comes together in one pack. The next one we've got is a big Citadel Guard multi-pack. It comes with 3 spears and 3 bows, and then we've got Kirion and Beragond together in a double pack blister. Obviously, we have to talk about the price creep with these. Whenever Games Workshop has been repackaging stuff, there's this whole thing about how they're trying to make sure they don't have too many SKU numbers because they only get allotted so many per range, and they want to kind of combine things together so it's easier for kind of warehousing and stuff. Yeah, I obviously don't run a massive warehouse. I have kind of a small one, so I don't quite understand why a massive multi-million-dollar corporation can't manage to not have large amounts of SKU numbers. Maybe it's for making sure there's not such a huge range because it's more difficult for independent stockists to stock. Because, you know, if there's 50 blisters instead of 25 multi-packs of those blisters, it's more things for them to carry. As a small stockist, I could understand that could be a pain. Regardless, doesn't matter because that's what's happening. The one kind of to talk about is the Citadel Guard. I'll talk in Australian dollars just so I know that off my head. Obviously, there's 6 models here, which would have been 2 blisters of 3. They were $22 each, which is $44 if you put them together, and now this multi-pack is $55. So yes, there's an $11 price creep there. I'm less concerned about that than I am regional price gouging because, like, there's always been price creep in, you know, life, but also in Games Workshop products. You know, once upon a time we bought 24 Warriors for $35. We don't pay that price anymore because now it's 2019. So, you know, things do have to increase in price, so I'm less worried about the whole, like, Games Workshop math, 22 plus 22 equals 55. That's not really that big of a deal. Yes, things are slightly getting more expensive, but also, you know, we've got awesome support now and an amazing Middle-earth team who are bringing out all these incredible new products. So, you know, I'm happy to take the price creep. I don't really care. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal for me. If it bothers you, look, fair enough. You know, last week you could have bought the Citadel Guard for $22, but now you have to pay $55 and you have to buy this multi-pack. But on the flip side of that, now we have models that you couldn't buy last week, like Baragon and Kyrion, who are coming back. Maybe they're a little bit more expensive than when they were here, but they weren't here at all, and now they are, and I'm stoked with that. To have models that are coming back into the range which aren't available is massive, because all the time we see posts from new players who are saying, hey, I want to play this army, how come half of my units aren't on the web store? I want to buy them. So it's great to see this stuff returning because that shits off new players, and it annoys me too when I want to buy something. Luckily, I kind of have everything because I've been playing this system for like 20 years, but it's good to see that there's kind of reducing that missing stock element. There's still a long way to go, but they're definitely kind of getting there towards it, and making sure that we've got a lovely full range. Now, the last thing to talk about before we bail on these guys is the sculpts, particularly with the Citadel Guard sculpts, because there is a range of different stuff that you can get. Now, you'll notice there's a very defined picture with 6 models here on the blister, and let's have a look and see if these sculpts match up. I haven't actually even opened this, so I haven't even checked, but let's have a look. So we're supposed to have our 3 bowmen, 1, 2, 3, so we've definitely got the 3 bowmen, and we're supposed to have our 3 Citadel Guard. Now, there is, oh, yes, okay, good decision. So, there are a couple of Citadel Guard poses which are super common. Everyone has them. I don't actually think they were battle games in Middle-earth. They were just like the first iteration or the more common of the poses. And as we can see here, we've got all the really badass sentry poses. I have heaps of Citadel Guard and I have none of those poses. I have a feeling these bow poses are even relatively rare. These don't look super familiar to me. It looks like we get 2 of the same bow guy, and then 1 of the slightly different loading bow, which is definitely not the most common sculpt. So, I can confirm that the sculpts that you get in the Citadel Guard are identical to the pictures on the box, which is the 3 Spearman variations in Sentry mode, as well as the 2 bowmen that are the same, and then 1 bowman who is different. I'm fairly certain those 2 bowmen are identical. Yes, they're identical. So yeah, 5 variations with a double up on the bowman, which is as described on the box. Now, obviously this is one box, maybe they're different and it just fluked that it was the same, but I'd say that's not the case. But we'll definitely get some guys to hit us up on the Zorpazorp community Facebook page, those of you who are buying Citadel Guard, and we'll do a bit of a poll and see. But I'd say that it's as described to keep it nice and simple. Obviously, these models are old now. They're not brand new or anything, but we can still have a look at them because they are absolutely stunning sculpts. I love. Oh, my sword is broken. No. Okay. Well, I hope that doesn't happen to you guys. So my I think this is Angbor, right? Angbor and Forlong. These are gorgeous sculpts, and I love the detail. I absolutely hate the Dunhir model. I think he is one of the worst sculpts in the range. He's shocking. But I love Angbor and Forlong. I'll probably be able to fix this with a pin, maybe. And actually, I mean, it is a very thin blade. It's a very thin blade. Yeah, I might be able to get a pin in there. Otherwise, as always, if that happens to you guys, just contact customer service. And say what you will about Games Workshop, their customer service is phenomenal. So, you know, if you have a blade that's broken,
That blade was broken.
that you can't get back together, just hit up the guys and girls over there, and they will sort you out, no problem at all. And then the final one to have a look at is Kirion and Beragond. Now, everyone's obviously flipping out for Beragond because he is, like, actually super useful, whereas Kirion, I don't think I've seen him in a tournament list for a long time, which is a shame because he's a badass model. Look at him. He's absolutely gorgeous. He'd be awesome in some Battle Company stuff. I should give these to Jacques, get him to paint them up for our Battle Companies campaign, but definitely some gorgeous sculpts there. So that's it for this edition of News from the Mark. Some fantastic new products. The King of the Dead sculpt is gorgeous. I love the profile cards. Didn't really think I would, but they're definitely awesome. Really lovely to see some of these sculpts coming back to the web store, particularly the Citadel Guard posters I don't have, which is awesome, as well as the Fiefdom Heroes and Kirion and Beragond definitely being in stock forever now, which is super exciting. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this installment of News from the Mark. Make sure you subscribe if you're new around here and check out all the other Middle-earth content on the channel. If you love what we're doing here, feel free to check out our Patreon link down in the description. And also, we're on the approach to 10,000 subscribers, which is huge, and we have got a lot of exciting stuff planned. There's going to be some big announcements. We'll do a 10K reveal video where we reveal some plans moving forward for some new styles of content, some new exciting stuff, as well as some really exciting stuff for our Patreons and some cool Patreon rewards moving forward. Now that we're starting to get a little bit more serious with everything. Super, super exciting stuff. So we will see you all next time here on Zorbazorb Gaming. In the meantime, keep on SBG gaming. Cheers, guys.